Which
set
one,
up.
the original or the remake?
The remake. I think the remake's actually really good.
I
Yeah.
heard that about Battlestar remake. I still haven't seen it.
It's
It's really good.
you gotta like sci-fi Cloak and Dagger. That's really what that show is.
You do have to like the cloak and dagger nonsense.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
show's super sci-fi Cloak and Dagger. Like it's not my bag because like I can't get invested enough into the background lore to be like I fucking love this. But at the same time, like is it actually objectively bad? No, it's probably better written than this.
Like
Oh, it's really well written.
Is it like a situation where you're supposed to remember something about a guy called a Cylon from the 1970s show, so that you know what's about to happen and you're excited? Is it like
No. They did a good job with the remake. So the way that they did the remake is they took the homage from it, but there's nothing like, you'll gain some extra bonus nerd points if you've seen the original show, but it doesn't spoil anything for you.
Yeah,
like when they did that remake of V, hot ass.
Right.
I
I
guess.
think. I think.
I guess. I don't know. Like that's something we could. I would be happy to go through that if we can find a medium for it. Like I would be happy to do Battlestar Galactica too, because none of us had seen it. We can kind of piece it apart.
Do you guys remember Alien
Battlestar's like 5
Nation?
seasons.
Alien Nation. My wife in the
I don't
back.
know who wrote it, but it was like somebody kind of big.
It was
It was a buddy cop series with like basically like in the year 20XD6, like a fucking giant ship shows up over like Earth, and it turns out it's like a slave ship, and it's all these aliens like all the actual like crew, all the slave masters are fucking dead, but it's just the slaves are there, and so they have to like integrate into society, and it's like all fucking weird. And so there's a lot of like hijinks about and like legit problems with like cultural integration and shit. But it's essentially a fucking buddy cop movie or show where one of the guys there's a human cop and an alien cop, and they solve like alien human crimes.
I remember this. Yeah.
I don't know. Let me
It
see
was
if I
also-
can find it.
It's so 90s
It
because
was a movie too.
Yeah,
It's so
Because it
nice.
was a buddy cop in space.
It's
on
the
Earth.
Community plot. It's the plot where all these unwanted refugees flood your country and ruin it, right? Like it's so 90s in that sense.
But they didn't get like
Right. I'm hitting the head.
yeah. Oh, there was like
See that, guys?
there was like totally like an
Kinda did.
alien hooker murder.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, we can do that too. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Like, I will go through the entirety of Stargate and just keep notes about where we're at.
Oh yeah, we're fine on that.
Like, we
it's a
can
great
totally make
show.
this, I don't know, multi-year, because Stargate seems to like, Stargate really vibes with me when we go into our military adventurism phase as a nation.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
that's when I'm like, I gotta watch me Stargate, because there's something like comically naively sweet from like 1999 to 2008 being like the adventurism's good actually, or it can
Right.
turn out good, because it never freaking does.
It played the most heroic music of the entire fucking run of the series when they very first walked through the Stargate in their Marine outfits, right?
Yeah.
In their Desert Storm fucking 2003 Iraq invasion era Marine outfits. They were walking into the fucking wiggly water, and it played the most heroic fucking music you've ever heard in your life. Whereas if that was made today, even if the show was pro-military and pro-adventurism, it would still play scarier, darker music, right?
It would.
It would
'cause
be like, oh, I don't know about this.
Yeah. It's like it's not excited to explore the world anymore. Like you're not excited to do that. Whereas like this like the Stargate like still has a sense of like, man, yeah, it's gonna be rough out there, but there's gonna be some good stuff out there. It's gonna be worth your time.
We have to go over there and get all the space pussy. We have to help those kids that hang out next to the Stargate, like Dreadlock Short
We have to save the Jaffa fucking community center.
Yeah.
Yes.
From being shut down
We
by
have
the
to
evil
we have to
rich.
stage like a sleep in or a lock in between the Jaffa and the fucking gold.
Yeah, we're gonna need to make sure that the Chulak summer camp can beat the Rich Gold summer camp at volleyball to keep the camp open. Like,
Classic plotline.
Yeah, it's a classic plot line. That's what I mean. So like whenever this military adventurism crap and it starts getting bleak, I really do like watching Stargate because there's a beautiful like there's a sweetness to it in that it's so comically naive. And I think like unlike unlike a lot of the CIA agitprop where it's like Wakanda, you know what I mean? Like where the best friend of Wakanda is a CIA agent. The best friend of
Yeah.
an African country is a CIA agent. Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. You
Yeah,
know.
but they call them colonizers, so it's okay.
Yes.
Do they call them colonizers?
They dunk on fucking Bilbo or whatever.
What's the point of him being the
Or
good
Frodo.
guy? What's the point of him being the good guy if they're gonna call him a colonizer? Like they know what's up, so like why are you even putting it in there? It's just like we need to make sure that the baby left wingers will watch this, so we have to say the word colonizer. But really, we're still
Well,
gonna do like the CIA guy is the good guy here. So it's like
it's
double.
almost like
It's pure
it's a
pandering.
throwback. It's like a throwback to when they used to focus group everything, and they didn't used to just disregard the fact that every single American focus group, if you do any kind of anti-hero, whoever doesn't understand like how that works is going to be the loudest and most dominating voice of the response. Like it's always going to be some like 65-year-old bitter woman who is like, I don't understand who the fuck is he, the good guy or the bad guy? And she's just going to keep asking that fucking question until they get fucking cold feet about blowing big stacks on something where, you know, maybe the hero is not a super good guy or whatever. Like, ghosts of that still haunt television and film production in this country, even, you know, decades after there have been successful things that were not about good guys. Like, it's just hard to get off.
Yeah, it's just. I don't know. I can't say it enough. There's a noble naivete to Stargate because the original plot of the Stargate movie, to kind of sum that up, is like they go through the Stargate, they end up in Abydos, and like they're like, wow, it's like ancient Egypt. It's almost like the ancient aliens conspiracy is real.
Yeah,
And
Eric
then
von Däniken was right the whole time.
he was right the whole time, and
Hotep, it's all true.
the Hoteps are right. White people were engineered, baby. Comically enough, by black gods to ruin black people's lives. Like you're all validated. It's all true. But you know what's neat? The black people that are not alien evil overlords, they're actually like really cool to hang out with, and we should be nice to them. Which like
Yes.
in modern America, the elements of the government that are the intelligence community are coded as the bad guys instead of the people ruling the government. Like
Right.
they portended. No, hold on. They kind of portended, whereas like the president has sway over these people, and it's like that's not how that works. The president is subservient.
Doesn't the president get like absolutely cucked later on? Like the president calls in and they're like the fucking like guys who do like a soft coup on like SG-1, they totally ignore them.
Yeah,
they ignore the president's call and they're like, yeah, we don't give a fuck. We don't answer to you. Fuck you.
Yeah, they do. But then, if you remember, by the end of the episode, they get punished for it.
Oh God, if only.
Yeah, right? Like, instead of that being the norm, like, that literally being the way America functions, it's like, no, if you do that, like, you'll get what you want in the short run, but in the long run, you're in trouble, mister. Like,
Well, we hadn't even been over there. We hadn't even been over there that long, and it already looked so bad. Subconsciously, everybody was thinking, all right, whose fault is this going to be?
And they all nuke in.
It's the intelligence community. It's bad intelligence. That's whose fault. They all subconsciously knew that it was before it was perfectly okay to say that.
Well, remember, this show is made pre 9/11. Like, this is gonna Farscape, even notably, Farscape is about the American space program where John Crichton gets sent on. That was pre 9/11 too. They referenced that directly. Like, his dad is like a big like, I don't know, these Muslims are doing this shit, and like Crichton's like, Dad, our planet is so tiny. We need to just get along with these people and figure out what we're doing wrong that makes them mad. Because like there's a whole universe out there and they actually kind of do hate us. I have not been doing anything good across the universe. Do you understand how poorly equipped I was to socialize with other cultures?
They don't hate us like throwing a shoe at George Bush level hate us. They hate us like withholding warp drive technology from us level hate us. Do you understand the difference?
Yeah, one of those is way worse.
Yeah. They hate us like they're planning a genocide of the planet because I killed one guy's brother. Dad, you have to understand. Like,
Yes. They're waiting to do the genocide until they can do it like in a cheap way. Like the only reason they haven't
Like
done
we
it.
want to wipe out this planet. We don't want to pay for it.
yeah, like they
Budget,
can't figure out
budget
how to get here
genocide,
is the only reason.
great value genocide.
Yeah, but like that's how the peacekeepers are in that shit. They're like, as soon as we figure out how to get over there, like those guys are fucked. Like they will either
Farscape
submit
Rich
to.
though, like fuck what like it's of the pulp sci-fis. I think it's actually the most fun.
It is.
Oh,
I really do like Stargate. I think it's my favorite. But like
hands down.
Farscape fucking whips so much ass. It's so silly. There's like good gross out humor. They got Henson puppets. They got Claudia Black. They got
Ben Browder.
Claudia Black. They got Ben Browder, who's a great actor too.
Yeah. Notably, at one point when they feel like they needed to save Stargate, you know who they got, right?
Exactly.
They got Ben Browder and Claudia Black. Like they were like, we need to save the Stargate franchise.
It's like when you've got a team and you're like, all right, well, like we're gonna have to rebuild like the next season, so we're just gonna go all in on like ringers.
Yeah. It is. It's the exact same philosophy because they're like, the guy from Stargate Atlantis isn't pulling his weight, so Ben Browder, and he's like, yeah, I'll do it. And he's like, I need a paycheck now that Stargate or Farscape's over anyway. And they're like, oh, sweet, good, we have a big fat paycheck for you. But yeah, it's like the same shit. You know what I mean? Like it I like them both. I don't know which one I like more because I have watched. The only reason I'm taking a break from Farscape is I've watched it 3 times through, and I watched the Peacekeeper Wars twice. And like I did that all over the course of like 2 months, and now I'm like, okay, kind of
Oh,
need a break.
you've really taken it to the dome.
But it's good.
It is, yeah.
Like I wish I had watched that as a teenager back when it was on TV instead of now streaming, because I could have already been loving this thing.
Like there's so much good stuff, but like I think you hit the nail on the head. When there's something going on that you know that if you don't pick out some entertainment that you really love, you are going to look at something that you cannot reach the levers to with your little monad arm. You are going to pay attention to some kind of horribly depressing world event that you cannot influence the outcome of. The spectacle can only be observed. You know, you're gonna look at some guy to board ass shit that just cannot make your life better or anybody else's life better for you to look at it. So you pick the entertainment that is gonna. I mean, I went straight for, it's about Halloween. I went straight for Tales from the Hood too, just to watch Keith David be Satan. That's what I.
Which is a good choice.
You can also just watch Requiem for a Dream to watch Keith David be Satan too.
Yeah, he played Satan a lot. And I'm comforted by the notion that, it's not good enough for me for Satan to be waiting for the white people that are doing all this. That is not good enough for me. It has to be Keith David Satan is waiting for the white people that are doing all this.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, Stargate appeals to me in these kind of times. Like it appealed to me really heavily back during the beginning of the first Iraq War, especially right after we declared quote unquote mission accomplished. But what, 20 years too early? And
yes.
Before we just made it a state functionally because we're just trying to provoke Iran. But there's like I said, it's the naivete to it. There's this like end of history dream to it where this is where history goes next because Earth history is solved.
The image of Bush in the flight suit, somebody put that in front of the Stargate, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to look perfect. Bush in the flight suit standing in front of the Stargate is going to look exactly like a frame from that show.
Yeah, and it will feel like, it's like it funny enough, it feels exactly like the Iraq War because as soon as they kill Apophis or they think they've killed Apophis, they're like, mission's over, man. And then the other goal, like, dude, we're still here. And we are now really mad at you guys because you killed one of ours. Which is weird because, like, if they kill one of theirs, it's like, and then there's this weird thing too, like that is entirely based on like the like these kind of notions of like honor killings and shit like that. Because the Goa'uld have no problem killing each other, right? But the implication is that if you interfere in Goa'uld politics and you start killing Goa'uld, oh buddy, You're now going to face the full wrath of the goddamn system lord. Suddenly they're, and like if you remember that era, the idea was kind of like, well, Muslims kill each other, they do honor killings and beheadings and all this horrible stuff. But if you go mess with them,
Yeah.
they're gonna all team together suddenly and be like ready to kill you, which like
There
totally
was kind
makes
of there was
sense.
kind of a like white people's understanding of hood justice.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, there's this kind of like immature.
What?
There's this
It
immaturity
is.
to it. Like I said.
It's not a complete idea of it. It's like this. It's like what 40, 50-year-old like white people would have thought about like the hood in the 90s.
Yes, where it's like if you're in the hood, there's a deep politics to it, but if you're not from the hood and you do something, it doesn't matter. Those political machinations are essentially child. What they think of is they think that other people have their same vapid politics.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
Yeah,
they'll
there you
go with
go.
that.
yeah, so they think that people like this notion of like quote unquote hood justice as you're framing it is the same vapid politics deployed by a lot of white liberal politicians that shucks howdy our disagreements are essentially paper thin and at the moment's notice suddenly we'll band together and be a team, which is not really how things like if you have a mature understanding of politics, that ain't it, chief. Like I'm sorry, that ain't it. We're living that now with like the Donald Trump stuff because they're still like, can you believe they back him? Yeah, they do because they have a deep political divide. They are fascists. They like the overthrow of democracy. So when you try to emulate them to show that your differences are just paper thin, all you're doing is acquiescing to fascism. They still hate you fundamentally. Right? Like they still just fundamentally hate you. You need to deal with the fact that you have set up a system that produces people who don't view you as intrinsically human. And I'm talking
Yes.
about white liberals here. Like white liberals are like shocked that white conservatives don't view them with a fundamental humanity, and then they can just do these things to them. They're just like, can you believe it? Yeah, I can because they fucking say it over and over.
Yeah.
You know, like
It,
when they're like I'm not racist, but black people, and then like you're like, yeah, I believe that you're fundamentally racist. You keep telling me that. I pay attention, and they're like, well, they're not racist. Well, what are you talking about? Same
the
same problem. Like
the
you just don't want to pay attention to reality because you don't know how to deal with that reality. You can't cope.
it also like their misunderstanding of all of this stuff, even though as you say they broadly proclaim everything about how they misunderstand and dehumanize everything around them, like they say all
Yeah.
the time, so you should know that's how they feel. But like it 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 even there's even a sort of a mysticism to it. It it's them looking at everything through their weird cult lens of like the market also. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, these gangs are fighting, like I don't want to take either side. I don't want to pick winners and losers. I just want to sell guns to both gangs if possible.
That's true.
Right?
And
Like
there is
this
an
is not a
element of that.
situation. This is not a situation that I need to stop. This is a situation that arose. If it's not at my house, I don't need to stop it. It arose somewhere on the other side of the world by the market just being a natural force that determines everything. And they're duking it out in the marketplace of ideas. I don't want to pick winners or losers. I just want both sides to be able to buy my guns without me getting in trouble. And it never should stop. It's fine for that to just happen every day. That's what I think the world is. I
Yeah.
take a strap. I take a strap to the grocery store, right? Because that's what
Yeah.
I think the world is.
That is the world that has become like keep in mind the thing is like proper philosophical liberals run the fucking United States. These are
Mm-hmm.
liberals and conservatives in the political sense because where they fall on the liberal conservative spectrum is ultimately still these are market liberals. Market liberals
Yes.
are the ones who sell guns to people every day that kill people. Market
Yes.
liberals are profiting off of it. There is no more market liberal an institution than the NRA. It needed an advertising hook. It got an advertising hook. The advertising hook is crime and racism, which is a classic liberal methodology because you have to win in the market. So like
Yes.
they're shocked and mortified that liberalism produces this in a philosophical sense because they're political liberals who are like, but we don't agree with it. Well, it does not. That's not good enough. I'm sorry. That's not the answer. Like, just disagree.
Yes,
Okay, I disagree with a lot of things I can't do anything about, but you have the
you
political
can't tell
power to
me.
do something about it, and you just don't exercise it.
Right.
Just
You
that's
stand
anathema.
there and you stand there and you say that a natural and correctly evolved right wing element in the market, which is a balance to us and needs to have its ideas listened to and is valid, is just having a problem right now, and they need to do better. That's that's your whole entire response to any and all world events. Is well, these backward motherfuckers, they can't help it. They just need to go to college or do better or something. But we can't just do something about them, because that would be silencing their free speech with this very valid viewpoint they have, which is, reduce what we are, which is the state, to just reduce our power to nothing and replace us with a
Well,
vacuum. It
because
sounds weird, but
The
for
because
some
only
reason
thing
we
they want to, the only thing they want to do is a final solution.
it's
well, yeah,
a final solution for the state. That's what market liberals want to do. Like, it's because market liberals don't like a state. Like, they do it too. They try to eradicate the state. Like, the
yeah,
conservatives attack the state directly. The liberals attack the state by setting up NGOs, non-government organizations, that then siphon money away from the state and siphon money away from the citizens into their own pockets for them to dole out and dictate what should happen. Like, it's the same attack. It's the same type of philosophical attack. They're the same thing. Like, they don't present in the same ways and they have different outcomes, but the fundamental premise to what they're doing, destroying, eroding state power to its bare minimum, is exactly the same. Letting the market erode that kind of governing state, because what they're born from, what that ideology is born from, is an attack on state power, as if from an economic attack. Like, it's
yeah,
in the DNA. When they talk about fundamentalism with the government, and they talk about, like, oh, the Constitution's living, it shouldn't be fundamentalist. It is, though. You are doing the fundamentalist thing, whether or not you want to admit it. When you siphon that money away to your crappy NGO, like the Anti-Racism Center, laundered through what, oh, I can't remember what institution that was, from Ibrahim X. Kendi, and he stole 42 million.
yeah,
When you have what is it, Brett Favre directing welfare funds to get his daughter a pool at her college, right?
yeah.
You're doing the same thing. It's the same direct attack. And one of those, it's a direct attack that this should be in the hands of a private citizen for whatever whimsy they have. In the other, it should be that you should set up a quote unquote valid purpose, combating racism, but then it should be deployed in such a way that all it does is siphon away money from people.
Yes,
You
it,
know?
it, it they're going to be irresponsible, with that money. They're going to do stuff like they're going to try to cut the state by just lowering their taxes. How selfish! What a selfish and backward way to try to to check the state. No, we have a
Yeah.
much better idea. You know,
Yeah, exactly. No, we can do their job better. We can let the market dictate that outcome better, instead of it just the flagrancy of, like, yeah, you can just use welfare for whatever. We don't actually give a shit. As long as it doesn't go to black people, it's fine.
right? We're going to keep taxing the shit out of them, and then continue to give more every year to rich people and like fucking Northrop Grumman and shit.
Yeah, they don't even have to be rich people from our own state, frankly. As long as they're white, we'll take them. Look at Brett. Like I said, Brett Favre did it.
Yeah,
All because he built it. All because like a person who was not. I think it's Mississippi did it. But there's like a
like in it,
law in Mississippi or Arkansas or Louisiana, one of these states that is just like awful, right? One of those
in like
states has a law where you can turn welfare funds into any public project. So he went to his daughter's private college and was like, "What do you guys need?" And they're like, "We need a pool." And he's like, "I'll get you a pool." And then he just like, "I want welfare money to buy them a pool." And they were like, "Well, not a lot of blacks go there. That'll be good enough for us." And they just did it.
right. And you see some of his incredibly blatant text messages, and then you see a little bit of the response to it and stuff. But like,
Yeah.
clearly, clearly, he was introduced to this concept by people who were operating in this tonal level, right?
Yeah.
Clearly, when he was introduced to the idea to do this, people were acting like that it was totally fine. That everything about it was above board, and it was fine, and they do it all the time.
It is. It's totally above board. The problem is it's the law. Like, that's the thing. Like, it is the law that you can do that. So when people are outraged by it, it's like, well, you should be outraged at the state, at the economic system that would compel the state to doing this, you should be mad at that because otherwise it's going to keep happening. If you're just mad at Brett Favre, like you're not going to do anything about the problem.
Like if you saw the one that people weren't embarrassed about, like what do you think ones happened that they were embarrassed about and didn't tell you about? Jesus Christ. What do
Yeah.
you think one of these that they were whispering about is like? Like motherfucker. Like
Oh yeah, it's
what did
infinitely
they
worse.
do?
But that's kind of the point there, right? It's like is this
We're
totally
gonna
legal?
we're gonna end EBT in 4 counties, and we're gonna use the money to build Elon Musk's sex racetrack.
Yeah,
That's what we're gonna do.
it will be more banal than that. I mean, that's the thing. It doesn't have to be like we joke that it's outlandish. It's nothing outlandish. It's a swimming pool for a college. Rich people, that's a normal thing to do. It just so
But
happens to be in this state that you can divert money that predominantly does go to black people to keep them alive. You can divert those funds to any banal project that doesn't involve black people. You're just allowed. And it's gross, it's real fucking gross. But it's like what are you gonna do? You gonna bust on him for doing it? Like, I'm sorry, he's not a state legislator. It's not like the punishment metric needs to come from the federal government. It needs to discipline the state because it's not serving a public purpose. That's what needs to happen. But that would admit that the federal government has sovereign power, which liberals are anathema to do because of centralized authority. You know, communists don't shirk from it.
yeah,
Anarchists and
it,
liberals shirk from it. We don't. We're like, yeah, okay, if a state screws up, it's just like the state should hold the federal government accountable when they screw up. Vice versa. If the states are screwing up, we need to step in and intervene. They're anathema to the idea of, they prefer the idea that there is this du jour government system where you have 50 different options that are all slightly, uniquely bad in their own ways and which one you can tolerate. Which,
yeah.
That's
that
the great
sucks.
experiment, baby.
Yeah, they brag about it.
You
They
give
call it
50 ways. If you find out 50 ways to fuck up,
50 ways to screw over black people instead of one common way. You know, like or zero. They're like really proud that they found like 51 ways to do it.
Like we might, I don't know, like okay, like we may have a slightly larger than normal episode of the dumb space on the 8th, but it's not 100% nailed down, but like may have something going on there. But the week before that, whatever day that is, I'm trying to think. Next Wednesday will be like
the
the fucking
one,
first.
Yeah, I think it'll
The
be the
the
fucking
one
one.
first.
the night of the first, we may have to do exactly what we did here on that show and just watch something. We may have to watch that fucking ridiculous movie I watched the other night.
Sure.
The villain is he's a private prisons billionaire, and he's making a robot called the Robo Patriot, which is just straight up RoboCop. Like Rusty Kundief and Spike Lee wrote this thing to have fun. Like they do not care about just putting RoboCop in there.
Yeah.
Like no, it's a white billionaire. He's doing private prisons and he's ready to do RoboCop. Like that's the first 5 minutes of the movie, right? And it, that sets up these like short stories in the style of horror anthology films, the original Tales from the Hood, Tales from the Crypt itself, based on the old EC horror comics and comics from the fucking 30s on were like one-off horror trash. But like this thing, it really leads you down a path, and the original film kind of has shades of this too. But it's just a Rusty Kundief thing. He also did a movie called Fear of a Black Hat that I love. That is a parody of NWA. But anyway, the guy is great. He leads you down a path where you think that he is about to cuss out white right wingers, but then in the third act of the film, another white politician villain shows up, and he's a guy with a Colonel Sanders mustache and a white linen suit, and he's in Mississippi, and he has this thick ass accent,
Yeah.
and he's talking to all these black people, and you're like, oh, okay, this is it. This is the evil racist Republican. This is Jeff Sessions or whatever. But then he winks at the crowd of black people and he goes, after all, we're all in the same party, right? And you're like, oh my God. They're proposing that it's about to return to the Dixiecrat platform in this film. And that film came out in 2018, and I think I think Rusty and Spike were proven correct.
Didn't Spike Lee do that film in the late '90s, early 2000s where they brought back the vaudeville minstrel shows, and it was like a big hit to the point where like the guy who
Yes,
had the idea went insane.
yes, it's Bamboozled. Yes,
Bamboozled, yeah.
it is a Spike Lee that I like very much. I 90% of Spike Lee I really really enjoy. He fell off like, and there's also weird tangents and some of the stuff that aren't so good, especially the last few. But like, it doesn't detract from like a multiple decade spanning career of just incredible bangers. And
Yeah.
picking up a sequel to an old movie from 1995 in 2018 and making the shit out of it, just one of the dumbest, funnest horror movies that I've ever seen, with only a little bit of seriousness shoved in there, but seriousness that's so dark that it's meant to elicit, thrilled laughter from the audience. I mean, there's no other way. It was very good. But I really dug that though, just that little spin, because any other film from any time between 2016 to 2020 that is going to address what's wrong in America, it is typically going to be either some kind of conservative propaganda piece that is like all liberals are soy pussies, and they're going to turn into cat girls when it's time to fight the big war. Like, it's either that, or it's a sort of a liberal Hollywood type jam where the villain is a white conservative Republican redneck. But this movie, they brought back the Dixiecrat, and it just made me so happy, because that's where it's really fucking going. Like, that's where that's where it's really fucking going, is all that bad shit and all that dehumanization and all that being able to walk past a ditch full of starving people and just think, well, that's the market. All of that shit. The only way that you can get more people into it is by widening its base. Like, you have to expand. The progressives think they're going to move. They think it matters what they change their mind to, this or that. No, fucker. No. Your conditions that you live in this fucking Nazi country, are going to continue to evolve around you. And the only way that you're going to be able to deal with the contradictions that you're not fucked yet, and all these people are fucked, is if you become more like them. And you need some kind of Colonel Sanders that says he's a fucking Democrat to hold your baby hand and walk you there like the dumb fuck that you are. That's what you need. It's the only way that you're going to be comfortable in public with the people who, as time passes now, you're going to have more and more in common with about what you think to do to the blacks and the poors. It's the only way. Is it for the Democratic Party to mysteriously, amazingly, just this incredible transformation back into what it was, before any notion of progressivism, before any of it. Like, they don't think it's going to happen, but oh my God. Oh my God. Why don't they think it's going to happen? It's so obvious. I don't know. The film is good. We may do something similar to what we did here tonight with that thing on the first.
Yeah.
But sorry, it's late as shit.
Yeah.
I'm-
I'll tell you what, I'm going to go out on this. I've now seen my new favorite take about colonialism.
What's that?
Its miscegenation laws are good, actually.
Okay.
Because
brand?
because miscegenation laws protect the imposed upon populations.
Mm, mm,
That's my new favorite spicy take.
mm. Like, my tummy hurts a little bit. I'm not fully, like, probably later when I figure out like the specific implications of this. If I
This
knew what guy said this, I would probably
a conservative anti-colonial.
okay, yeah,
You'll find that the like black conservatives tend to be very much tied to their white counterparts, because the reason they can be
yeah,
black conservatives is because of capitalism. You will
yeah,
find that among the radical decolonial efforts of the indigenous population, they have a much more nationalistic and conservative bend, which is why I'm always suspicious when somebody's revolutionary movement is based on nationalism. Like, I still think like it's still class first. Like, the reason is, if it's class first, it's probably left first, right?
yes,
Unless it's
yes,
literally just their wealthies going, "Oh my God, it's time to get these out of here so we can be the rich people who dominate you." Unless it's that, uh,
yeah,
I'm not seeing how Like having a nationalistic attitude towards it, toward like a race purification of the land, like it doesn't really I'm sorry, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to hold up very long because you have a couple of problems that you don't want to confront, right? Like first off, who's eligible to stay? Second off, how does that wealth get distributed? Third, how do you handle power, right? Presumably you return power to workers because you live in a modern world. Like I'm sorry, like here's the cold hard truth: capitalism infects everything. Socialism has been in a perpetual war since its birth as a governing order in the Soviet Union on the basis of we are at war with, we are in a death spiral with capitalism. One of us has to come out of it. The Chinese did it. The Cubans have done it more or less, but not too many people have, and they are still every day battered and weathered upon by the market. We're calling for, we're preparing to call for a genocide of Chinese people. It's obvious what the Americans are going to do, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that you would attack it from a conservative angle and be like, no, actually, you should just leave because what do you do with the nukes, right? What do you do with the weapons? Leave them for like I don't know, 1 million people in a territory this size, and then are you going to equally distribute that land in a way that accounts for all market conditions? You're going to be able to survive. Do you think the rest of the market isn't going to be interested in that? What does the market do now with like populations that are occupying land when the market wants it? It
Like
wars.
it
It
it delivers.
wars. Like you're up. Like you're like the. It's not a solution. I'm sorry. It's just not.
Like it took me a second until you. It took me a second uh after you very first said it before I was kind of like, okay, like now I get the type of guy who says this, like, and achieve like full oh my tummy hurts, like to hear that sentence,
Yeah.
but like at the same time, like it it's always existed as a concept. It's just not widely used. It would be something that was in like say David Duke's inventory, but it would always be in his back pocket until he'd already been talking for like 3 hours, and like him and the Daughters of the Confederacy or whoever were like having martinis and shit. Then he might pop off some shit like, well, if you keep the races are better at policing themselves internally anyway, which is like this insane thing to say that doesn't even sound that plausible to a racist, but like they kind of think that it's funny or maybe like it's one of their lighter weight jabs or whatever. It's not something they use like seriously out front as part of a fire and brimstone return to just racism as a policy campaign. But like it is something that's in their inventory. It's just not noticeable next to the other shit that David Duke says. Right? Like, you're never going to remember that he also said that on top of the main shit he was talking about. And that, yeah, if that's coming back up with liberals that are obsessed with freedom and individual determination and the market and shit, like, like if it's coming back up with them, then yeah, Colonel Sanders, fucking Dixiecrats, here we fucking, god damn it, god damn it,
Here we go.
god damn it,
Yeah.
god damn it. Like,
So
okay,
yeah, no, like don't we're good on that. But yeah, it's I just found that to be awesome. It's just it's cool. We're doing that, and we're going to do that as a sincere. We're going to try to launder that through the left that miscegenation is good. Actually, it had very much reminds me of when they did the every race has a table to talk about their racial issues and kind of decide how they wanted the campus to go, and they ended up with a whites only lunch counter.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. If you have an immature understanding of this stuff, you can easily land yourself in a situation where racism is good actually, and it's like, whoops. If you've arrived at that conclusion, you're either A, conservative, or B, you're wrong, and it's time to scrap the idea. It's okay. You have stress tested the limits to see what can be handled, and you have found that it was wrong. It's all right, but miscegenation is good actually turns out that's just racism is good actually. That's not a solution. That's not a viable option. Sorry. Gotta try again.
And
And
yet it's
that's
the
Yeah.
only option they seem to choose.
The
yeah.
good news, Captain, is we just freed like millions of people that the Germans were holding prisoners. The craziest thing we've ever seen. There's millions of them. We just freed them. They're free, Captain. We did it. We won World War II. The bad news is, a lot of them is Jewish. I don't know.
Yeah.
You guys want to
Well,
like make them? You guys want to make them like some kind of lunch table that they can sit at, and like I don't know, we'll put them all there, and say that that's theirs. You know, do we got anything? Do we got anything that's like way out on Sandy Planet that nobody wants?
yeah.
Do we got?
Keep in mind, like after World War II, I am one of the people who's like, the America should have ceded territory because we have the most of it. Failing that, we should have forced the Europeans to cede territory. In
Yeah, Jesus
retrospect,
Christ,
the Roma should
Jesus
have got
Christ.
a nation state, or if they really wanted to remain nomadic, which I'm suspicious of because they live in fucking countries and engage in them, you know. But if they really want to remain, return to a nomadism or be nomadic, they should have had a territory where it's clearly theirs to be nomads within, right?
Yes.
But considering they don't want to do that, it seems like they should have been given a piece of territory if we believe that race-based territory is all that it's cracked up to be, which I'm suspicious of that idea, right? Um,
No, it's good. They're gonna pass. They're gonna pass all these weird laws that sound racist to us,
yeah,
but they're good actually. They're policing their own little lunch table, and we don't have to eat with them.
right. So what did they do instead? They were like, well, we can't impose upon the Europeans. We'll just send them to the Middle East. We can impose upon those people. And look what
Mhm.
they did, and look how that ended up. At first, Israel was a backwater shithole.
Yeah.
Then, when they got invaded, they were like, well, this is an opportunity to make money. And then over time,
Right.
Israel was like, not only can we help develop the terrorist programs that will eventually come back to bite us, like the Americans do, but we can also advertise to military contractors that we are a testing ground for their weapon systems.
Yeah, it totally is. It's a testing ground for every form of violence that exists, even beyond weapons. Like, all the shit that they've said for decades.
Yeah,
Like, the data on whether or not any of that shit was absorbed by the public as good or bad excuses, or whether they thought any of it was memorable as a reason to do a slow genocide, that shit is money. Like, to
right.
have that data, like to be able to have a live testing ground where you just try to spin some bullshit for decades while you do a slow genocide and see what people buy, that is money.
It,
Holy shit.
it's a lot
It's
of
my
money.
genocide and I want it now.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it really is a big money project. That's where like when
Oh,
people
he's
like
having
Arami,
genocide now.
well, when people like even like people like Arami who are observing the situation are like, we are a colony of Israel. It's like, really? Are we a colony of
Oh
Israel?
God,
Because
did he really?
yeah,
I I didn't even think he would have a. Oh my God, what the fuck is? Okay,
yeah,
Did he
he
did he
did a
do
full
it?
keep going.
anti-Semitism.
What did he do?
Well, his
Did he do
exact take was a lot of people say that the Israel is a colony of the U.S. Nobody says that in public. The only people who talk about it in public are hard right wingers who promote the stereotype, the anti-Semitic stereotype that Israel is a Jewish nation and we are controlled by the Jews through Israel. And Arami's
right?
like, Arami just without even batting an eye is like, oh yeah, we're basically Israel's colony because when they demand stuff, we give it to them. And it's like, how do you think a colony functions?
Wow.
He's
The colony
dude,
has to be fed by the parent state, and in return, it has to get something out of it. That's what keeps the colony going. In this
right.
case, the opportunity to force American jobs and launder U.S. government money through weapons manufacturers then allows us to test those weapon systems on a captive population. And in exchange, we have to steward it because that state cannot survive on its own accord. They've already shown that their colonial governor cannot do it. So when he's
From
like,
a
oh, yeah,
guy from a
like
guy that used to do way better shit, it's cheap heat coming from him. It sounds like he's a right wing talk radio host saying, well, I guess the poor people are in charge because we have to buy them cars on welfare or whatever. Like
it's close.
it's that aggrieved bullshit, right?
Yeah, there is an aggrievement to it. And the problem is it's not even that Arami's aggrievement is wrong. Like the
No, not
America
incorrect at all.
America is a state that ultimately like we have a black person problem that needs to be solved and not through ethnic cleansing. We need to solve it by writing and addressing the myriad of white grievances against black folk. Like that's true. Like that aggrievement is real. That aggrievement is valid. That aggrievement needs to be rectified because it is a tangible material aggrievement. But to misunderstand and intentionally misunderstand what a colony is. Like I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's not, how does he think the American colonies functioned? Does he see it as they
It,
dumped the surplus population there and said produce money for us and then they got uppity? Or do you see that as an investment in the market where the colony does return on investment, and in exchange, the colony is defended and utilized for its purpose? I mean, there's a reason their people have socialized medicine. It's because the US government flips the money in guns. So they have the
Yeah.
guns they need to enforce it, and they have the money to construct it. Like,
Yes.
that's how the colony functions. The colony is not of itself profitable. It becomes profitable when you can get uses out of it. It's a massive expense to take on a colony. That's it's like there is a minor amount of truth to the racist statement that black people were not cheap. But they were not cheap because you could exploit them for their labor and make an infinite return on investment.
Right.
That will always go for every year of service, your end of year returns will go up, not down, in both directions. Because if you spent $10,000 buying a human slave and got
Yeah.
$10,000 worth of capital out of them, then you're already in the red. Everything else, you're cleared the red. Now everything else, every dollar over that is in the black. Like, that's how that functions. It is a significant economic investment, which we've done, and Israel is paying out on its returns.
Yeah.
It's just it's not as crude as like, oh, we set up a music studio. You know what I mean? Like, it's not as crude as that. It's not as crude as a cotton field, but it still does serve as a return on investment. That's why America's so adamant about it. Hell, we're so pleased with the return on investment that white Americans worship it, have encoded it into their religious views. So
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
yeah, so like, to make the claim that I think Israel does run America, like, what the fuck? Why are
Yeah,
you
that's
picking?
dog
Yeah,
shit.
it is dog shit. Like, why are you picking on such low hanging fruit? And like, again, it's not that your aggrievement's wrong, but this is not the way you channel that aggrievement. If you're mad about Jews doing well in America, well, who lets them?
Yeah.
Anybody who does well in America is allowed to do so at the hands of white capital. You saw it with Kanye. As long as he was pleasing white capital, Kanye did well. Jay-Z pleases white capital. He's doing fine. Dre, they're pleasing white capital. They're doing well. Other people don't please white capital because they're not doing the steps. Killer Mike is trying to walk a thin line of appeasing white capital and still being radical. And how bad's he
Yeah.
fucking up?
Yeah. Like, there was a brief period where Killer Mike was the perfect solution for something that was just edgy enough for their taste, but not like talking about like organizing big shit.
Right.
Killer Mike is those type of black people that say you're not pro-black if you fuck with white women, and
Yeah.
then
Fucking
completely
white
ignore
women.
the example that Obama was not pro-black, even though they was both black.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
America's most famous black.
He's also the kind of guy who would say that then bang a white woman.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then their favorite people to socialize with, the Obamas, was another super rich black couple who most of their albums are about like most of their albums are about like how the land tax is too high now or something, I think is what Jay-Z talks about now. Like,
Yeah. How there's a slur worse than the N-word and it's capitalist.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Jesus.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. And for his personal experience, that's true. But that's not objectively true.
Did you just call me a capitalist?
Yeah.
You fucking capitalist.
Right? Like, that's the thing. So I was disappointed in that, because me, I'll give him a lot more leniency than anybody else.
They hurt my feelings by calling me a capitalist, and he wipes his tears with his money.
Yeah, and like, that's right. He's sitting on his yacht and he's like crying and wiping his tears with money. He's like, "Can you believe they said that about me?" It's like, yeah. What did you expect? That's the most banal thing they could have said, Jay-Z. It's better than what your new friends are saying about you behind your back.
I have all this stuff, but
You don't
it
seen
still hurt.
Bamboozled? Like, if you've seen Bamboozled, you'll know what they're calling you behind your back. You know deep down, but you don't care because you got a billion reasons not to care. As it
In
turns out, that word loses a lot of power when you have like $2 billion.
Yes.
That's what I want to point out. That word is only really oppressive when it means you're going to get shot by the police. When it means you have $2 billion and you can go wherever you want and people are going to be like, wow, it's you. Yeah, that I can imagine like that is not as bad a slur to you anymore.
Yeah.
I can.
The like the old Most Def song from the early 2000s where
Yeah.
the end of the song is, "After I get rich, if they still call me that, I won't find it surprising."
Right.
Like, because, like,
They
what?
will.
How is that?
Yeah. You're right. They will, and they just won't. You just won't have to care anymore. Like it won't matter to you that they did. What's it gonna hurt you? But
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Rami's big hot take was that Israel is the
That's so
master of the
dumb.
U.S. Yeah,
I'm so glad I abandoned that guy.
yeah. I mean, like I still peep in on his stuff, but like I don't know. And the thing is like there's stuff that's good. Like the left should have a focus on the family and like not only because we need to develop a notion of family so that we can start actually making sure we produce new leftists, right? Like
Yeah.
I genuinely agree with that. I think if you don't put effort into I agree with his take on liberals that they erode institutions. The conservative institutions are bad, but the reason they're doing so well is because they're really good at building bad. Like the liberal version of bad is they let the thing rot. The conservative version of bad is they just want to use that institution to do evil. You know,
Yes.
Well,
it,
I'll tell you what. If that's how you really feel, meet me in the back of the Applebee's behind the Cumberland Mall in the next 15 minutes if you want an ass whooping.
okay. No, I do think the left should focus on
No,
building a left family.
I'm just saying that to introduce myself. Good
Yeah,
evening, gentlemen.
you're
How's it
good.
going?
But
What up? But yeah, that was the thing about that. It was like, and if you start going back to the original proposal, right? Like that's part of the naivety of it is like I can just be reckless and irresponsible, which the Stargate program is reckless and irresponsible. Uh I can be naive about my understanding of the world, and I think I'm always doing the right thing, and clearly the US government can do no evil or no wrong. And
Right. You heard that music when they walked through the Stargate.
yeah, you heard heroic music, hopeful heroic music, even when it turned
I mean,
bad on the other side.
if
Every
the
episode,
if the military is involved, surely
it's good.
surely all will turn out well.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's all.
and in that right now, the liberals are showing that kind of naivete yet again. So, yeah, I don't know. We did a micro episode here. We're gonna cut it a little short. Um, we're probably gonna be doing this model for a while, where we stream super late. We just kind of hang out, but we're gonna hang out as a podcast and discuss our ideas first. Uh, and we'll be taking you through Stargate. We're at least taking our cast members through Stargate to talk about it more because I think uh, like I said, this is these situations right here when we're at the start of a military adventurism gear up that I think Stargate resonates very well because there's a beautiful mirroring of the naivete of the situation. And liberals are right now mad that they don't have that naivete, but it's nice to go back to an era when they did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we're the Sons of Tree Air. Thanks for when you watch this on replay or whatever. Thanks for coming, and we love you.